Ron is a nationally recognized educator whose career is always focused on development of teachers. He came to us as Vice President for Education at WNET, the nation's flagship television station in New York City, where he has been the architect of the Celebration of Teaching and Learning, a world-class conference for K-12 educators. He began his teaching career at Phillips Academy in Andover, where he was also assistant headmaster, and credits the late Theodore Sizer with shaping his vision for schools. Later, he served as Dean of Faculty and Chief Academic Officer at the Kingswood Oxford School. Between 1900 and 2003, he was Program Officer at the Geraldine R. Dodge Foundation, Senior Vice President for Program at the Rhode Island Foundation. The what? Oh, I did. Well, Ron is young, but he's incredibly timeless. And that's why we're so excited about him being with the National Board. He sees to the ages as well as the past. He was Senior Program Officer at the Wallace Foundation. His 8 years at WNET have moved that station to the forefront of education nationally. Dr. Thorpe is the author of numerous articles and commentaries on education, technology, and philanthropy, and the editor of the First Year's Principle. He grew up in Carlisle, Pennsylvania, as a product of public schools, graduated from Harvard, where he majored in classics, and earned both his master's and doctorate at the same institution. Secretary of Education Arne Duncan has said, Ron Thorpe is an extraordinary education advocate. Through WNET's annual celebration of teaching and learning, Ready to Teach grant, and participation in the International Summit on the Teaching Profession, Ron has shown constant dedication to empowering teachers. Let me just say on behalf, I think, Christy, if I may speak for you as Vice Chair and the Board, we're so pleased that Ron has joined the National Board of Professional Teaching Standards. Ron, you come and there are several who have done great things before. Obviously Kelly, Castor, Aggerberry. You come as you've heard some of the past of this organization and heard from some of those who made it possible, but you also come bringing the future. Because Ron clearly sees what a transformational moment this is for education, for teaching, and for National Board. And we're convinced that he's going to make all three happen at the National Board. Ron Thorpe.
Thank you. Oh, I wish I'd have written a better speech. Thank you, Governor Wise, for that introduction and for your support and Christy's support. Dennis Van Rokel, my old friend Randy Weingarten, and all the board of directors in my first 7 months have been incredible in helping me get started in a city that I don't know very well and in a job that I am very excited to join. And thank you, Governor Hunt, for coming up and joining us today so that we can honor you, and this really is an honoring of you for our first 25 years and for having the vision 25 years ago to do what you did, to lay out something that had no precedent in our profession. Now, looking back on that historic moment, it's not all that surprising that it was you who teamed up with Jim Kelly to launch this bold effort. And it is no surprise that on my first visit, after being named president of the National Board, that Jim Kelly and I flew down to North Carolina to see you. I hadn't even started yet as president, but I knew it could never start without that trip. And I'm so pleased that Secretary Riley is here tonight. I had the honor to meet him a couple years ago when he came to the Celebration of Teaching and Learning, and we put on that wonderful talk where he and Secretary Duncan together in the same room. I don't know how many teachers in this world ever get a chance to sit in the room with one secretary, but to sit with both of them at the same time, extraordinary. I had a thought about Secretary Riley at that moment when he was there. I had never realized it before, but he became secretary on what was basically day one of the internet. Before he became secretary, none of us were sending emails or doing anything. And over those 8 years, he built up the Educational Technology Office with the help of Linda and all the folks that you brought in there. But that was an extraordinary achievement to take us from the pre-internet age to where we are today. And we're always grateful for your help on the National Board. And I hope I can continue to look to you for guidance. And Michelle Cahill and the Carnegie Corporation. It was the Carnegie Corporation, actually it was the Foundation for the Advancement of Teaching, back in 1910, that put up the money that led to the Flexner Report. And the Flexner Report gave rise to the true profession of medicine. Without that early support, who knows where we would be in healthcare in this country. And of course, it was then Carnegie in 1987 that decided it needed to do the same thing for teaching and education and put up the first money for the National Board. And as Carnegie celebrates its 100th birthday, it's great personal pride for me and everyone at the National Board to know that along with such iconic and heroic efforts such as Sesame Street, NAEP, TIAA-CREF, Head Start, you list the National Board. Great pride. And on a personal note, having spent a dozen years in philanthropy myself, I'm very well aware of the almost mythical proportions that Michelle has in the world of grant making. And Joanne Weiss, thank you for being here and for representing Secretary Duncan and the department, for all that the department has done for many years to make the National Board work. We have indeed worked on the International Summit for those 2 years. That's another thing no one ever thought could be done. That idea, by the way, came from John Wilson, who's in this room somewhere. He took it to Secretary Duncan. Thank you, John. He took it to Secretary Duncan, and we were off and running. And it was very exciting to work on. And next year, we'll be doing it in Amsterdam. I look forward to that. It is a true honor for me to be the 4th president of the National Board. Since 1974, when I entered teaching, I have had more opportunities than I can imagine. Any one of them would be a blessing, a dream state for most people. And I've had so many. I came into the field working for Ted Sizer and later became his assistant. Everything I think about in education was shaped by Ted. He's the one who told me what schools could be. In my graduate school work, I had a chance to be with Frank Keppel in my master's program. And then in my doctoral program, my advisor was Doc Howe. Those two amazing men, back-to-back commissioners of education, created the original ESEA, implemented it, created the Civil Rights Act, and implemented it. Their spirit, as well as Ted's, are with me, I hope, every day. But I'm blessed to have more than just spirit at my disposal, because I've got Governor Hunt, Secretary Riley, my old friend Jim Kelly, and many others who helped build the National Board over these 25 years. They have been so generous with their time and their counsel, and I look forward to working with them and all of you as we head into our second quarter century. But I do want to speak about the first 25 years and all that has been achieved, because it is considerable. We have strong and worthy standards in 25 different content areas and developmental levels, constantly brought up to date with the best thinking on the Common Core, career and college readiness, technology, and all the new knowledge that we're gathering all the time about how children learn and what teachers need to do to advance that learning. We have a fair and dependable process which certifies whether teachers meet those standards. We have a growing amount of evidence that affirms students in classrooms with National Board certified teachers do better than students in other classes. And although we never have enough evidence to that regard, it is mountainous compared to what we know about master's degrees and other ways that we currently now award and reward teachers for their work. And we have this army of nearly 100,000 board-certified teachers, not only working in every state, but as you already heard, and I'm glad it was said, so now you'll remember it when you hear it again, more than half of them are working in high-need schools where we need them the most. That's not too shabby for the first 25 years. But it is, as Joanne said, but it is, as Joanne has suggested, only a beginning. We have much more to do. If the good news is that we have evidence of effectiveness, the challenge is to come up with more evidence. If the good news is that we have a reliable process, the challenge is to make it even better. If the good news is that we have high and worthy standards, the challenge is to constantly evolve those standards to keep them relevant and rigorous. And if the good news is that more than half of those board-certified teachers are in high-need schools, the challenge is that we must double down on that number for the children who need effective teachers the most. We will deal with each of those challenges. But then there is the point that trumps all of the others. If the good news is that we have 100,000 board-certified teachers, the challenge is that we have only 100,000 board-certified teachers. If we are ever going to have the schools our children deserve, board certification cannot be an elite core. In every profession, medicine, law, accounting, engineering, whatever you want to name, board certification is the norm, not the exception. It is what every member of those professions aspires to and most achieve, and that must be the same in education. If you had surgery tomorrow, or more importantly, if you had a child or a grandchild going into surgery tomorrow, and the surgeon came to you and said, "I'm not board certified, but I'm just as good," you would not feel very confident about that. Why should we accept or expect anything less from teaching? Making board certification the norm and all that's going to require, and it is a massive job to change that culture, will not be easy, but it must be done. We must identify the barriers that are keeping teachers from applying for and achieving board certification, and we must get rid of those barriers. We must take the videos and the reflective papers submitted by board certified teachers and introduce them into teacher preparation programs and into the training of principals who are about to start doing the difficult work of observing teachers and evaluating them. They should be trained on board-certified teachers' videos and reflective papers. Attaining board certification needs to be understood as the goal. From the first day a person sets foot in a teacher preparation course, and it has to continue through induction and the novice periods. That is the way it is in every other profession. I see no reason why teaching shouldn't have the same structure. This is the work that will define our second quarter century. And I hope we can count on each of you to help us make that happen. Today, tonight, we celebrate Governor Hunt, Secretary Riley, Senator Alexander, the Carnegie Corporation, the U.S. Department of Education, and all of those who have brought us to this point. And we also raise our glasses to all of you who will have the courage to build on that foundation and to make this profession what it truly deserves to be. Raise your glasses and toast that future. Thank you.